Hi, and welcome to a tutorial on JavaScript. In today's tutorial, we will be going over arrays. Arrays allow us to store more than one value into a variable. Let's go ahead and let's begin on demonstrating how we create an array. An array is created by declaring a variable, like so, equaling it to, and then in square brackets, we're going to place the values we want inside of it. I'm going to do a list of names. We'll go with Joe. I'm going to make those strings. Joe, Bob, and the last one will be Cindy. You do need to give this variable a name, and I'm going to give this variable name. We have just created an array. As you can see, we have a variable called name with 3 different values. The first value, Joe, would be an index 0. The index is how we determine where the location is of an array object. So each one of these is an array object. Each one of these is also an index. It starts with index of 0, where Joe is, and then it goes up from there. So Bob would be index 1, and Cindy would be index 2. So just remember, when you want to determine the index, it starts with index 0. It does not start with index 1. Now that we have created a list, let's go ahead and let's manipulate the array. In our body, we're going to create a div. We're going to do an ID equals names. Within that div, we're going to nest a UL. The reason being is I'm going to take these and I'm going to stick them into our body, and I'm going to list them out in an unordered list. So to do that, let's create a loop. Well, actually, before we do any of that, let's go ahead and let's create a function. Let's go ahead and call this function called Array.list. And let's stick that variable inside of that function, the array inside of the function. Now we have done that, let's go ahead and let's create a button. The type equals button, and the onClick is going to be the attribute, and we're going to equal that to array list. Before we manipulate the array, we need to understand how to get the index of the array. To get the number of indexes in our array, we can go name, which is the name of our index. So name.length will give us the length of our index. So in our case, we would have 3 as our array.length. Now that we have an understanding of that, let's create a for loop, like so. In the for loop, let's go ahead and let's declare a variable I equals 0. Now that we have a variable I equals 0, let's do an I is less than name.length. I is going to represent the current index, and the length is going to represent the length of the index. And we're going to do an I++ so that each time the loop goes through, the I is incremented by 1. Now that we have done that, let's do a document.getElement by ID. And we're going to give it an ID of names. inner HTML. We're actually going to do a plus equal to a string, which is going to hold the li tag for list item, plus name, and then in the square brackets, we're going to put I, because that is how we're going to access the value in the specific index. So say, for example, this is starting with I is 0. 0 is going to go up to the name array and look in the 0 index, which is Joe. And then it'll increase by 1. So now I will equal 2, or 1. Then it'll be name with index of 1, which is Bob. And then it'll increase by another 1, which will be 2. And then it'll be name index of 2, which is Cindy. Let's do a plus. And then in string again, we're going to close the li tag like so. Plus equal is to create a string every time the loop happens. So we're going to add on to this every time the loop occurs. So go ahead and let's save. Let's refresh our page. Let's give the button a value. Since I forgot to do that, let's go ahead and give it a value of submit. Let's save. Let's refresh the page. Now we got a value of submit. Let's go ahead and hit submit. As you can see, Joe, Bob, and Cindy were printed out in an unordered list. And so to walk you through this, when the person hits submit, it goes up to the function array list. It creates a variable array name and puts the values Joe, Bob, and Cindy into that array. The loop then creates a variable I, which is set to 0. I has to be less than the length of the array, which is 3, and I++, meaning each time the loop goes through, it's going to add 1. It then comes in, and then it sets the li tag plus the index of the array, so it pulls out the name of the individual index. So the first one would be 0, so it pull out Joe, plus an li, so it sticks it in a list tag. Then goes through and it does it again, except for I equals 1, and 1 is less than name.length I++, which means it's 2 less than 3, so it goes through the loop again, and then adds another li tag for the index of name where it is 1, which is Bob. And then goes through that again. The 0 or the I becomes a 3. Which is, it becomes a 2. 2 is less than the name.length because there's 2. So 2 less than name.length, 0, 1, 2, I++, so it goes through and creates a document.element by ID names, and then adds a list element for the index of 2 in the names, which is Cindy. In closing, I have showed you how to create an array and how to manipulate it with a for loop using the name.length to determine the length of the array. Thank you for watching.